On the pasuk Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, that Hashem says to Moshe to go to Paroi and tell him to let the Yidden out, and if he's going to refuse, Hashem is going to bring frogs in all of his borders and all of his territories. The Medrash brings a pasuk V'yisroin eretz bakoili, literally translated, the advantage of land is in everything. But the Medrash brings the opinion of Rab Acha Rab Chanina and says that even those things that seem to be extra in the world, unnecessary in the world, miyusorin, this is the same word as v'yisroin in that pasuk v'yisroin eretz. So even those things that seem to be extra in the world, like nechashim v'akrabim, snakes and scorpions, they too are part of the creation of Hashem. Hashem says to the Nevi'im, what do you think? If you're not going to go on my mission, I don't have any other mission, anyone else to go on the mission. V'yisroin eretz bakoili. Even these things that seem to be extra, they are the ones that are going to do my mission. I could do my missions even through a snake, even through a scorpion, and even through a frog. The Medrash goes on to say, the proof of this is because if not for the tzira is a certain flying insect, how would Hashem punish the Emoirim? Then this insect was used, as we'll see in a minute, to punish the Goyim in Eretz Yisrael before the Yidden entered Eretz Yisrael. And if not for the frog, how would Hashem punish the Mitzrim, the Egyptians? And for this, the Medrash brings our pasuk, that Hashem is going to bring the frogs. So the Rebbe asks a few questions. Number one, how can we say if not for the frog, how would Hashem punish the Egyptians? Tzvardeya is only one of the 10 makos. The Rebbe turns for a moment to the tzira. As far as the tzira is concerned, this flying insect, we understand this was the first major thing to get rid of the Goyim of Eretz Yisrael, the Amorim, the Canaanim. It was something that really attacked them and punished them in a very strong way. The Razal say that this tzira remained on the other side of the Yarden, outside of Eretz Yisrael, but it struck them in their eyes and threw a poison into them which killed them. So we can understand the tzira. But as far as the tzvardeya is not the first makkah that comes on Mitzrayim. Of course, the first makkah is the makkah of blood, which is a much harsher and worse makkah for the Mitzrim, because the water, the river and its water, on this was dependent not only the drinking of water in the simple sense, but also all of the livelihood of all of Mitzrayim was all dependent on the river. In addition to this, there's another 8 makkahs coming, with which Hashem punishes the Egyptian, all the way to the last makkah, which actually brings about Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is Makkahs B'choros. And only then comes the ultimate payment by Kriyas Yamsuf, when not a single Egyptian remains. So what does it mean? If not for the frogs, how would Hashem punish the Egyptians? Another thing, says the Rebbe, and the whole idea we don't understand, how can we even say regarding Hashem, if not for the frog, how would Hashem punish the Egyptians? Hashem obviously has many methods of doing things. Hashem has many messengers. Is anything impossible for Hashem to fulfill His will? The Rebbe now turns to a piece of Medrash just before the piece that we quoted. Before the Rabbi Acha that we quoted, the Medrash says, Rabbi Seinu Amrin, that the Chachamim say, our sages say, again on the same pasuk, V'yisroin eretz bakoili, that even things that you see as if they are miyusorin, again that same word, V'yisroin, even the things that seem to be extra, not necessary, like zvuvim, parushim, yitushin, these are various different flies and fleas and gnats, even these things are part of what Hashem created in the world. So the Rebbe is now turning to understand the difference between these two statements. As we learned simply, the difference between this Rabbi Seinu Amrin and what Rabbi Acha said, and also in the two details that Rabbi Acha speaks about. First of all, about the actual fact about the things that seem to be extra in the world. And second of all, about the idea that they carry out special missions if the Nevi'im are not going to do them, etc. So what's the difference between this first opinion and the second opinion? When we say B'chlal Briyosei Shalolam, that all of these things were also created by Hashem, that's not only telling us that they were created by Hashem and they didn't come around by themselves. We're also trying to say that these things also have a benefit for mankind. So Rabbi Seinu say that even things that seem to be extra, that don't seem to have much use, like these zvuvim, parushim, yitushin, these various different flies, fleas, gnats, etc., really, they also have a benefit. And they're also part of what it says, Kol Masher Bara, Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Olam, whatever Hashem created in His world, He didn't create anything in vain. In fact, the Gemara brings various different trufos, various different cures that one could have from the fly and from the gnat, etc. So that's the first opinion in the Medrash. Reb Acha comes along and adds that even things that are extra in the sense that they are actually harmful, they're dangerous animals, even they also have a benefit for the person. And how is that? Because sometimes a person can end up being protected because of them from other greater mazikim, worse things. The Rebbe over here in the footnotes quotes the Gemara, where the Gemara gives a number of examples of certain bigger animals that get scared away of smaller animals than them, less dangerous animals than themselves. So I think what the Rebbe is saying over here, in other words, sometimes some certain dangerous animals can be beneficial to us to scare away the bigger dangerous animals. So that's number one. Then the Rebbe says there's an additional benefit from these Dvarim HaMazikim. That's what the Medrash is saying, Rabbi Acha is saying, that Hashem carries out certain missions through them in order to punish the Rishoyim. This is the way we would simply understand these two statements of the Medrash. But if that's the case, says the Rebbe, we need to understand. Number one, if the main chidush of Rabbi Acha is that even mazikim, even these dangerous and harmful animals, are part of what Hashem created, and through them Hashem carries out various different missions. So the question is like this. Number one, why is he adding tzvardeya, frogs, which is definitely not within this category of mazikin? It's not a harmful animal, definitely not like snakes and scorpions. Furthermore, it seems to be like a chidush, like a novelty, even over snakes and scorpions. Because it says Hashem carries out his missions even from snakes and scorpions, and then he says, and even through a frog. And number three, says the Rebbe, the proof for all of this, what does the Medrash bring a proof? Not regarding the snakes and scorpions, only regarding, well, first of all, the tzira, but also mainly the tzvardeya. And does not bring a proof regarding the snakes and scorpions, as is brought in other medrashim, where the statement of Rav Acha is brought. Another thing, says the Rebbe, again, Rav Acha speaks about the fact that Hashem says that if the Nevi'im don't carry out the mission, then he has other messengers. He has all these different animals, etc. So the Rebbe asks, what's the common denominator between the missions of the Nevi'im and the missions of the Nachash and Tzvardeya? The shlichus through these harmful animals is going to be to punish Rishoyim. Whereas the shlichus of Nevi'im is not to punish anyone. It's in order to give over Hashem's words. Gila Dvorei, Hashem reveals his words through his servants, the Nevi'im. So what does it mean that Hashem says to Nevi'im, if you're not going to go on my mission, I'm going to do my shlichus even through a nachash or even through a frog? Says the Rebbe, the explanation is, the idea of the makos over Parei and Mitzrayim wasn't just simply to punish them, but as the pasuk says, "V'yodu Mitzrayim ki ani Hashem." The Egyptians should know that I am Hashem. It should be revealed. The idea of Elikus, the level of Havaya in Mitzrayim, and that comes about through the makos by breaking Mitzrayim. Says the Rebbe, since the klipa of Parei and Mitzrayim is a very unique klipa, very different to other klipos, therefore the real payment or the real breaking of Mitzrayim is specifically through this makkah of Tzvardeya, as we will soon see. In order to understand this, the Rebbe first speaks about the idea of kfira, of the fact that the goyim deny Elikus, deny Hashem. But within this itself, the Rebbe is going to look at three different levels, starting from what seems to be the highest and going down to what seems to be the worst. But we'll soon see which one is really the worst. So we first of all have those that what they are denying is what we call the achdus of Hashem, the oneness of Hashem. To say that Hashem is the absolute only Eibishter. But still, karu lei elakad elakai, they call Hashem the God of the gods. Because they understand that ultimately Hashem is their chayes, Hashem is what gives them their life, their existence. And because of that, they also don't rebel against Hashem. And the example that's given for this usually is regarding Bilam. So Bilam says, Lo yucha laver pi Hashem. I cannot transgress, I cannot violate what Hashem says. That's level number one. Then we have level number two. There are those that acknowledge generally that Hashem exists, and He's Elokad Elokaya. However, they are denying the fact that the existence and creation of all things in the world is dependent on Hashem. And that's like Paroi. Paroi says, Liya oiri v'ani asisini. The river belongs to me, and he claims that he made himself. So what does it mean that he still says Elokoda Elokaya, that he's calling Hashem the God of the gods? What all that means is, he's saying that yes, there is some power out there that's greater or stronger to him. But it's irrelevant to him. It's nothing to do with him. His existence is totally not dependent on this great God. So again, the first level were people that believe in Hashem. They just believe that Hashem is not the only one, but Hashem is ultimately in charge of everything. But there are also these other gods. Then there's Paroi, who could technically believe that Hashem exists, but it's totally not relevant to him. He believes that he made himself. And then we come to the third level, those that are completely Rahman al-Islam, denying the existence of Hashem. The example for this is given in Sancheriv, who it says about him that Chirev vegidev biyoser, he completely cursed, blasphemed, he insulted Hashem, mocked Hashem. He's completely denying the existence of Elokim Chaim. He does not believe that Hashem is the God of the gods. Out of these three different levels, so even though seemingly on the surface it seems to be that this third, last level is the worst of it all, completely denying Hashem, but in a certain sense, there's something worse about the second level, the Paroi level, the one who says, Liya oiri v'ani asisini, that my river belongs to me and I created myself. And again, even though he might believe that Hashem exists out there somewhere, and this is even worse than the third way, who denies Hashem completely. Why is that? So the Rebbe first goes back to the first level. In the first way, the people that say that Hashem is Elokoda Elokaya, so they again acknowledge and understand that Hashem is their life and their existence. And that's why they're not going to go against the Ratzon of Hashem. As we said about Bilam, that he says he can't go against Hashem. In other words, he admits that the existence of Hashem is there. He just believes there's other things as well. So he definitely, first level, definitely believes in Hashem. Even the third level, which we called before what seemed to be the lowest level, the ones that are completely denying and opposing Hashem, says the Rebbe, but from the actual fact that in an active way, they're denying and opposing Hashem, that means that the concept of godliness touched them somewhere. And that's why they're looking to challenge it, they're looking to fight it, they're denying the existence of Hashem. So in other words, it's specifically their denial and their opposition itself. It's from that itself that you know that there's a Metzias of Elikus. Look how much this person is fighting Hashem. In other words, there's a Metzias of Elikus that reached so far down, even into this low level where this person is. But then again, you have this Paroi level, which says, Liya oiri v'ani asisini, my river belongs to me, I made myself. He claims that his whole existence is just from himself, by himself. From such a person, there's completely no mention at all about the Metzias of Hashem. Because again, the fact that he says that Hashem is the God of the gods has nothing to do with him. It's again completely out of his life, completely irrelevant to him. Yes, there might be someone great out there, but it's nothing to do with him. His existence is Ani Asisini, I completely made myself. He feels himself as a yesh v'dover, as an existence completely for himself, an entity completely for himself. And therefore, in his Metzias, looking at him, there's in no way expressed any sort of connection. Not even that sort of negative association with Elikus. So these are the three types of kfirah. Says the Rebbe, similar to this in some way, is this in regards to these three types of ways of the Goyim denying the Metzias of Elikus or believing in Hashem, we find as well within the Nivroim, within things created in this world. So of course we know that whatever Hashem created in the world, nothing was created in vain. And this is something that's understood even b'seichel hapashat, the simple and the logic, that everything that Hashem does is for a purpose, is for a goal. And that the goal is seen in every single thing that Hashem created. You could see the purpose, the goal, what it's there for. And the Rebbe says, we could understand this with a Mikolshkin, how much more so if we examine how it works by a human being, a person down here. In other words, even a regular simple person, a craftsman that makes a keli. So obviously you're doing something for a purpose, and the purpose of that particular utensil, the particular thing that you made, is going to be noticeable in the shape and the form of that particular tool, utensil, etc. Of course, the purpose of the whole creation, as we know, is Kol Masha Bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Olam, whatever Hashem created is Elo L'Chavoidik, to reveal the glory of Hashem, to reveal Elikus in the world. And that happens through this itself. When you look at creation and you can see the purpose, how each and everything, what each thing is adding to the creation, what it's doing in creation, what the purpose is, that itself is revealing that there is a craftsman who made this all, there's Hashem who created this all, and therefore you see His power, His desire in the thing that was made. However, says the Rebbe, practically speaking, when we do look at the creation, it ends up being that Hashem created the world in a way in order that there should be b'chira chavshis, in order that there should be able to be free choice and a person should have avodah, and things shouldn't necessarily be so obvious. So not necessarily, bottom line is that we see in every single thing the purpose of why it was created in a revealed way. And here we have 3 levels. And the Rebbe is now going to bring 3 levels. One of them is going to be connected to the first opinion in the Medrash. And the other 2 are going to be connected to the 2 points that Rabbi Acha makes. And we're going to see, then we're going to align it. The Rebbe is going to see how these 3 levels correspond to the 3 levels of the Goyim and their belief in Hashem. So Rabbi Seinu Amrin, the first opinion in the Medrash is that even things that seem to be extra in the world are necessary, like the Zvuvim, the Parushim, the Yitushim, these various different flies, which seemingly have no benefit whatsoever. Nevertheless, they too are part of the creation of the world. And the Medrash goes on to say, as it says, "Vayara lekim es kol asher asa, v'hinei toiv moi," that everything Hashem made is very good. It's not levatola, it's not for no reason. And as the Gemara itself brings examples of the various different things that we have from some of these creatures, the Gemara says, "Boro zvuv litzira." Hashem created a fly that you could use the fly to cure you from a bite of a tzira, again, it's another flying insect. In other words, everything has a purpose, what it's going to be beneficial for. And therefore, kol mashabaraka, they're also included in what we said, that whatever Hashem created is all for Hashem's honor. In other words, through them is also being revealed the Boire, the Creator. Comes along Rabbi Acha, and he tells us another point, that even those creatures, that not only they don't seemingly have any sort of benefit, but in a revealed way, they seem to be the opposite of a benefit. They're harmful, they're dangerous. Nechashim v'akrabim, snakes and scorpions. Even they're also part of Briyos HaShalayim, part of the creation of the world. They're also part of whatever Hashem created is created for His glory. And the Rebbe applies a similar idea to what we said before regarding the Goyim that completely deny Hashem, that the actual fact that they're denying shows that somehow they're believing in Hashem. And the Rebbe says a similar idea over here. The actual fact that there's a toichen, that there's something over here, that's saying something regarding this. In other words, even though they're saying an opposite thing, they're seemingly going against Hashem, but nevertheless, that itself is showing that it's not an existence that doesn't know at all about the existence of the Creator, only knows about itself, as if they were always here, but rather, they know about the Creator that could give them this very character that they have, and they're negating it. In other words, they're seemingly fighting the Creator. But that itself, that they're fighting it, is again still showing that somehow they're connected, that they're somehow aware of it. The Rebbe says, going back to one of the questions we had earlier about the Nevi'im, with this we're going to understand what Rabbi Acha says, that Hashem says to the Nevi'im, what do you think? If you're not going to go in my missions, I don't have any other messengers. The Yisra in Eretz Bakoili, I'll do my missions even through a snake and a scorpion. Which he's coming to emphasize that even these creatures that are harmful, they too were created. Not only weren't they levatolo, not in vain, but they're lechavoidi, they're part of the glory of Hashem, because through them too is being nizgal, is being revealed the lekus in the world. Similar to what's being revealed through Nevi'im. Because when we see a snake or a scorpion, that through a snake or a scorpion, someone may be protected from some other danger, as mentioned before, or especially if you see that the snake and the scorpion is coming to punish a rasha, so that itself revealed now that even something that seems to be there, the opposite of benefit to the world, and yet you see, which the creation of the world is supposed to be all toiv moed, is all about goodness, and yet we see that even this is also created by Hashem, and that in this itself there's also some sort of good, because it was created by the source of all good, and this itself again is going to reveal the koyach hapoel, the koyach of Hashem. So again, we have these 2 extremes. We have those things that even though they seem originally that we don't have some sort of benefit, but we find some sort of benefits. Then we have the things that are all the way in the opposite, that are harmful, are dangerous, and even from them, first of all, the actual fact that they're doing harmful things and dangerous things is like the idea of fighting the purpose of creation. And therefore they too are somehow bringing out Hashem, which they are kvayachol fighting, so to speak. But even more so, we find certain practical benefits that they have from them, either to be protected from greater dangers, or to punish the Rishoyim. And now, says the Rebbe, different to all of these is the Tzfardeya, the frog. When you look at the frog, from the way it's created, it does not seem to have any sort of benefit whatsoever. It's not noticeable what possible benefit a person could have from it. So that's on the positive side. You also don't see the opposite side, the harmful side of it. It doesn't have any characteristics of being something dangerous and harmful. It's a creature that seems to be not to have any sort of teichen, any sort of character that should bring out that there's an ummah, that there's a craftsman that made it, or at least the knowledge of such a possibility. And here is the chiddush, that even through the Tzfardeya, Hashem carries out his mission. And if not for the Tzfardeya, we said, how would Hashem punish the Egyptians? Meaning to say, how was it revealed that even Paroi and Mitzrayim, these people that are Metzias, that not only they're not Megala, the Metzias of Elikus, but as we said before, they're saying, Li Yo'ori v'ani asisini, I made myself, he comes all by himself. And yet how should even they know that Ani Hashem, that Hashem is the true and one and only God? And furthermore, that the actual fact that they're even able to say that they're coming from themselves. This itself, at the very time, they're chayas. They're getting, obviously, through many, many levels, they're getting from the source of life, from the Eibishter himself, who, mitziusa hu me'atzmusa, Chassidus says, that the Eibishter's essence comes from himself. He's not based or caused by anything else, chas v'shalom, that's before him, chas v'shalom. Similar to, we say, Chassidus speaks about this, the general idea of that the whole yeshus of the world could only come from Hashem, who has nothing that precedes him, who's the source of everything. So again, going back to these Egyptians, the fact that they could even say this is really coming from Hashem himself. But how is this all revealed? Through the Tzfardeya. Through this creature that amongst animals in this world itself is not even noticeable that it has any purpose, any goal, not even like those flies and gnats, etc. It doesn't even have the teichen of a harmful thing, like the snakes and scorpions. As we said before, it seems to be it has absolutely no purpose, no cause at all for what should be causing it, what should be bringing it about. It seems to be out of nowhere. And yet, specifically the frogs, when they go on the mission of the Eibishter, when they go on the shlichus of the Eibishter, and with even greater devotion than the other animals by the other makkos, as the Medrash says that Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah learned a kal vachomer from the frogs to jump into the fiery furnace. This is the way that the Egyptians are really taught their lesson. They're really punished. They're really paid back. In other words, is this Makkah of Tzfardeya that really breaks the specific, unique klipa of Mitzrayim, of being able to say, Li Yo'ori v'ani asisini, when you see that even the frog is doing the mission of Hashem. And it's revealed, V'yodu Mitzrayim ki ani Hashem, that the Egyptians actually know that I am Hashem. And in other words, this shows that it's all coming from Shem Havaya.